So I'm in charge of bringing to the table alternatives, or a single alternative or multiple alternatives to the Prop 36 debate that we're having right now. Now I'm going to, first the overview is basically I'm going to hit you guys with some statistics that you might or might not know and kind of give you a scope of what's going on with both sides. And then a couple of alternatives and then the actual alternative that I'm going to push forward and hopefully go with. There's one I made up on my own, so hopefully you guys like it. Alright, so here's some stats. Over 41,000 second and third strikers are in the Department of Corrections as of September 2007. Over 4,000 of those are at least spending a 25 to life sentence set for a nonviolent felony. 208% of we're at a 208% prison population compared to our prison design capacity. $43,000 is spent on each prisoner, or about $43,000 on each prisoner, and that doesn't include the ones that are over 55 who have like serious medical stuff going on, which is around $60,000 for those that are sent to life. A study by the RAND Corporation, which is a nonprofit objective analyst company, says that we could have 15 times reduced crime if the money was spent on treatment programs for individuals, mostly because a lot of people are in prison for like drug-related felonies and stuff like that, and they don't get treatment. 3 to 4 times reduced crime we could have 3 to 4 times reduced crime if we spent the money on graduation incentives for high-risk youth, for basically all those kids that are not seeing college as an option or something like that. It makes them relatively desperate. A lot of kids that are in prison are relatively our age, and obviously we're all in college trying to better our lives, and that's something that they never felt that they could do. And so that could be alleviating crime there. For 2 different counties that decided to attack the 3 strikes law in different ways, San Francisco and Kern County, there was a 30% decrease of crime in San Francisco and a 21% in Kern, but San Francisco doesn't prosecute the nonviolent offenders and Kern does, so that's important to know. In terms of money being spent and or saved, taxpayer dollars, we have, since 1984, we've built 21 prisons and 1 university in California. You guys didn't know that. And it really, if it was about money, we have, in Orange County not too long ago, there was a bankruptcy fiasco that happened. $1.6 billion was, basically, taken away from Orange County, and it was due to specific people, and we only charged them for 3 years prison time, as opposed to anything of, stronger sentence. That's like the white-collar crime type stuff. And then one last one from UCLA. $1 invested in treatment programs for Prop 36. For those of you that didn't know, it was amended in 2000 to actually make it to where those that were charged with drug felonies and stuff like that, they did have the option of going through a drug program. And basically says that $1 invested into this program saved the state $2 to $4 for each of those. So it's important to know how much treatment programs actually save and or cost. All right, so speaking of the original intent of Prop 36, a lot of people, they see it different ways, but I think the original intent was to deter people from committing felonies. I think it's pretty obvious. Obviously, you don't want, if somebody's going to commit a felony, you want to make a felony, you want to make it to where they don't want to do it again, and that's the whole point. So my overarching plan, is to computer chip felons. How many of you know about computer chipping going on today, whether it's private or government based? Okay, cool. Not too many, so I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of an update on that. It's actually really possible nowadays for people to get computer chipped, even for like an employer to open your door or whatever. For some people, they're putting it in the small of their hand. But obviously for criminals, you're going to put it somewhere where they're not going to be able to get to it or try to take it out. So the overall plan is criminals of second or third felony are chipped. The chip tracks relative info based on GPS or something like that. It could be where they're at, for how long. It can be anything that has to do with basically keeping track of these people that we don't necessarily want out and about freely. And there's also no future limits for this too. Right now the technology is relatively new, but as technology progresses, it could get better and cheaper and whatnot. The plausibility of this actually happening, military and private sector use it. A company called Veritrip created something called Veritrace during the Hurricane Katrina, which basically was used to chip bodies and specific victims and stuff to help track them faster, identify them better. It worked really well. That was in 2009. That was that was an article by Telecom Worldwire. In terms of private sector, that same company, Verichip, they just picked up a company called Steel Vault, which was a positive ID company, which was about identifying employees and stuff and keeping track of their employees. So Verichip merged with them, and now they're
Thank you, Jay.
Let me start off by saying everything is about money. Look at the economy we're in. How many of you cry about paying gas every day? Anyways, don't get scared by the opposers of the Prop 36. This does no harm except keep us safe. Charlie Beck, Chief of Police of LA, states Proposition 36 is good for public safety in California. It ensures just, fair, and consistent criminal sentences. The policy has been in place in LA for over a decade now, and our crime rates are at record lows. Our limited prison resource should be directed at keeping violent offenders off the streets. And as for the chips, our goal is to keep dangerous criminals behind bars and save money, but with this device we won't fit any of the requirements. As Roy Lane from Yahoo Voices states, the downfall that is widely being recognized as microchips are not cheap, and it will most definitely not stop the crime from happening.
All right.
Well, my opponents bring up some interesting points. They're fairly entertaining, except the fact that once in 1994, when this law was created, we had so many less criminals and started building so many less jails that the fact that you want to say that the original intent isn't going to be followed or that we're saving money, that's just not true. That's just beyond possibility. And the problem that I have with chipping the inmates is that they have so much time to go through, commit their fourth offense, and have the damage already done before anybody's able to do anything. And if you want to free these people, then free them. I think the Constitution would have some issues with chipping them and calling them free. So I think it's important to side with the California State Police, the sheriffs, and everybody here fighting for your security, trying to keep you safe, and vote no on Prop 36.
All right. In terms of everything being about money, I think it is important, that we spend specific amounts of dollars to keep very serious criminals behind bars. That's true. Now, in other terms, I can't necessarily agree with Abdha on the other things. With Joe's statement about it being relatively entertaining, I think that it's actually very serious. Fear as a motivator of actually being tracked everywhere that you go. There are specific people at the American Civil Liberties Union that have said, to have a record of everywhere you go and everything you do would be a very frightening thing. I think that's very true, especially if there's a crime that's committed, a 911 call is made, and then they just check to see what chips were in that area or anybody that was there at that time, and there you go, you've got your criminal, and you're not going to have any cold cases anymore on that level, to where people will actually hit victims of families. Yeah, this stuff might happen again, but at that point there's actually closure, as opposed to those people just going out and doing those crimes without thinking that they're going to get caught. So, yeah.
Okay, excellent.